since I last filmed a video. I believe it actually was the beginning of last month. So here we are. It is currently November 2nd. It might be the 3rd actually. Hold up. It's November 3rd. So my TBR for this month was humongous. If you watched the last video, I believe I picked 15 books, and I wanted to read 10 more also. Why? Because I set a goal for myself to read 110 books this year, and I have read not that many yet. I think I've read 71 books this year, so I need to read like 43, 44 more. 49 more? I don't know how to do math. 39 more books. That's how many more books I need to read this year. If I've actually read 71. I just made that number up. Today we're going to talk about the books that I actually read this year. No. Scratch that. We're going to talk about how many books I read this month. Last month, October. How many books I read in October. So the first book that I finished, technically this book I finished in October, but I started it in September, was The Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. If you don't know what this book is about, it's about a family who lives in America. They kind of just up and moved to Alaska suddenly. They just decide to do that. And then it kind of lives through, you kind of get the perspective of this teenage girl. I think she's a teenager. She's like young, and then she grows up in the book. And her dad was in the army, like during the war. So I believe he fought in the Vietnam War. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so he like has nightmares and flashbacks and like is different because of that experience that he went through. And it just shows the family dynamics of that and living in Alaska in pretty much the middle of nowhere with a very small community. And it's very interesting. I rated that book 4.75 out of 5. I don't have it here because I listened to it actually. It took me 10 hours and 47 minutes to listen to, so it's a pretty long book. But I really, really recommend that book. There is some physical abuse, so be aware of that. If you are triggered by that, maybe don't read this book. But I think it's really important things to learn about, and it was I really, really enjoyed listening to the book, and there was like some parts where I really went, like I was like, that really just happened. So that was the first book that I listened to, technically. So the next two books I also listened to. The Marlowe Murder Club by Robert Thorogood. I honestly was just like scrolling through the Libby app on my phone and was like, what should I listen to? I need something to listen to. But what? And this was like one of the first ones that seemed somewhat interesting. It's about like an older lady, like I think she's in her like 60s or 70s, and she decides to help solve this murder case. So it's super, super interesting. And I rated that book 4 out of 5 actually. And it was actually short. It took me 6 hours and 12 minutes to listen to. I don't really know what else to say. It's just this random lady that tries to solve this murder case. And it's that whole story. It's very interesting. I highly recommend it. It's more like, it's not a thriller. It's comedy kind of. It's not necessarily comedy, but it reads like that. And it's super light, even though it does talk about murder. It's like this, I believe they're English, like British, and she just like an old English lady trying to solve a murder case. She's not a cop, she never was. It's very interesting. And then I also listened to the sequel of that book called Death Comes to Marlowe, which is the exact same plot, just a different murder case. It's also very, very interesting. I rated that one 4.25 out of 5. It took me 7.5 hours to read. Highly recommend both of those books. Actually, Death Comes to Marlowe, I started and finished it on the same day. Wow, what the heck was I doing? So the first book that we have that I actually read is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. my dad had been trying to get me to read this book for months, maybe even a year. And I was just like, nah, doesn't seem that interesting. Like, what is this cover? I don't get it. But you need to read this book. I rated it 5 stars. After that long, I cried, I laughed. It was amazing. If you don't know what this book is about, it's about a girl who lives in a marsh. Everyone in the town knows who she is and they call her the Marsh Girl, but she doesn't go into town unless she has to like buy food or get gas for her boat or whatever. I don't even, like, I think that's all you want to know. It's super interesting and I loved this book so much. So then the next book that I read, I actually just finished it like last week, I think. I read it for class. Lord of the Flies by William Golding. It's read in schools because the book kind of was written, like the author's perspective of the world. So kind of like, what are humans at the core? Like, are they good or are they evil kind of thing? And it's about a group of boys who are stranded on an island and have to survive. They're like 12 years old, I believe. Some of them are even younger than that. And it's very interesting. There isn't even a description on the back. But I rated it, what did I rate it? 2.75. Because I honestly, the things that happen in this book are super, they kind of just happen out of nowhere. And there is foreshadowing, and it's like, oh yeah, this is going to happen, or I understand what he was saying now, like what he said then because of this happening. And it does make, like, he has his reasoning behind it, but I don't agree with the author's reasoning, so it's just kind of meh for me. But I do recommend it if you're interested in literature, I guess. This book is probably, I think it's just fiction. Like, I don't even know what genre it would be. Maybe, like, dystopian because they're trapped on an island, but it's not, like, I don't even know. I don't recommend it, but it's 2.75. I listened to The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells, which is a book that's on my puzzle. What a weird book, okay? Obviously, it's about a guy who's invisible. Oh, wow. Wow. 1897 this book was written. That's crazy. I didn't realize it was that old. I'm going to read you the synopsis that I just found on here. It says, the story concerns the life and death of a scientist named Griffin, who has gone mad. Having learned how to make himself invisible, Griffin begins to use invisibility for nefarious purposes, including murder. So, that's essentially what the book is about, and it's very odd, and honestly, when I'm listening to an audiobook, I try my best to stay focused, but obviously sometimes, like, my mind will wander and I'll be distracted by something. But this book, it wasn't that my mind was wandering, it was just, like, not that interesting. I wasn't very interested in it. I rated it 2.75 out of 5. That's 2 books in a row that I rated 2.75. Those weren't the best books. Then I also listened to Everything is Fucked by Mark Manson, which is a book about hope. That's literally what it says on the cover. I was expecting the book, I was expecting it to be like, you should hope for good things, right? And it essentially tells you not to do that. Kind of. It's a nonfiction book, for starters. I really enjoyed listening to this book. I think I enjoyed it as an audio experience because the person reading it, I don't remember who it is, it was super informative. Like,
Okay, I apologize, but the camera cut off and I didn't get any more footage about the last book or the next book.
I talked about this book and I didn't explain it very well, but I rated it 3.5. What did I rate this book? 4.75. I rated this book 4.75. I love that book. I listened to Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, even though I own a physical copy because it's ugly. What is that? Literally, what is that? And the words are really, really small. as we previously have heard, I listened to it before and I did not like it because I couldn't even remember the main character's name or any of the people in the book. So I listened to it again and I ended up rating it 3.5 stars. I did enjoy the book and there were some things that like made me laugh or giggle or whatever. It just isn't my kind of book. I guess there's nothing really happening. Like, yeah, there's lots of like secrets and things going on like in the side and stuff, but like I really don't care who's getting married. You know? Same with Little Women, which I read last year. I did not like that book. It's super slow and I don't care who's getting married. The 10th book that I read in October is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. This book is also has a high esteem. Is that how you say that? Is highly esteemed? I don't think that's how you say that. I don't know. Don't ask me. It's not like I read or anything. It's about a guy named Arthur Dent who lives on Earth until Earth is demolished. Pretty much. This alien guy that was pretending not to be an alien, I think that's how that happened. He kind of guides Arthur Dent through the universe and they end up on a spaceship with these weird people and there's so many things happening. And it's very, very interesting. There's lots of new words. Honestly, like lots of the words in this book, I was like, oh, that's an interesting word. What does that mean? But I didn't really enjoy the book. I understand. What did I rate it? I rated it 3 out of 5, which is still good because there were lots of things, like, honestly, this book was funny. There were lots of things that I was laughing at, and it's not that I hated it. It's just that when I was reading it, I was like, oh, I wish I was reading something else right now. You know? But that's not to say that you shouldn't read this book because this would be a lot of people's genre that they like to read. But it's just not mine. I don't usually read comedy books or books about the galaxy or aliens. I don't really know. And it's part of a series, if you don't know. And I don't plan on reading any of the other books. But if you have read this book, you will understand that the titles of the next books in this series are very interesting because each of them is a line or something that's talked about in this book. And I find that super cool. Like, that's so interesting. Like, it's an actual quotation from this book as the title of another book. I think that's super cool. But that's essentially what this book is about. It's kind of all over the place, and things are just everywhere. That's one of the reasons that I didn't like it very much. But I still recommend it because it's not the worst. And it's funny. So yeah. Those are the books that I read in October. Why did I just say that in an accent? October. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any book or video recommendations, please let me know in the comments below. And I will definitely take those into consideration because I always need more books to read. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.